Hello students, here is Professor Plínio Monteiro, and in this video I will introduce the content of the Unit 5 and also present the content of the lecture number 10. And this unit is concerned with internal decisions of the firm. Basically, first looking to the resources that the company have, and after that we're going to move to how these internal factors will drive the company to make decisions to have international operations. And in the next lecture, we're going to focus on how you can use these capabilities to make a choice on what will be your entry mode choices, your entry mode to operate in the countries that are planning to have your foreign operations. And finally, in this unit, we're going to see how you can use your capabilities according to your environment and especially with the entry mode that you choose to develop your marketing mix strategies. We start this unit looking to the motives that will drive companies to operate abroad. Our learning objectives will be discuss the reason or the motives that will make companies to operate abroad, present different models for understanding for how business will make decisions to enter in different countries, analyze internal and external triggers for global competition, so what will be the factors that will drive companies to operate abroad, and also explain the nature of the Porter competitive-based 5 forces and how you can apply that in the international analysis. And finally, understand the implication of the diamond model of Porter for making the analysis of competitiveness in international markets. And what are the motives and triggers of internationalization in different stages? Most of companies will start their operations in just one country. This is the most common case for a lot of business. Of course, we have what we call a born global, that nowadays they are basically small and high-tech companies that start by operating in many countries in a very fast manner. So usually they start in one country, and in the next years, these companies move to very different countries. And these companies are usually very entrepreneurial, they are prone to accept risk. And despite the fact that we have these companies, but they are very rare in the market, most companies will start with just one, in just one country. And after that, they're going to enter with small steps, starting by exporting and then entering into similar markets, very close markets. And after that, they're going to move gradually to more distant markets. And the idea is to start to test the business model in one market, and then you move and try to apply this business model in a very similar market. And after some period of time where you have saturation, then you start investing in new markets to keep your company growing. And despite this fact, what will be the factors that will drive these companies to move abroad? Usually, we can set up two group of factors or motives that will make companies to operate abroad. First one are the proactive motives, and basically in that case, the company is not reacting from something happening in the environment, but it's taking a step in advance to pick up one opportunity or to when they see that there is something that they can achieve with this strategy. And then we have the reactive motives. Basically, these are cases where the company is facing some pressure or something is changing, and now the company is feeling some threat, and then the company starts moving abroad because of these threats. So let's look at some proactive motives, like profit and growth goals. So the company wants to keep the growth in their sales, and then the company moves to new countries because they see one opportunity on that. The managers may want to have this global presence, so they have this push to go and operate abroad. Technology competence or unique products. For instance, you develop something very unique and you want to let your products in many countries to avoid any new competition. In that case, you're just You're not waiting for someone to develop a product like yours. You go there and deliver the product before someone starts doing that with a business model similar to yours. Well, in general, when you see some foreign market opportunities, for instance, a big market or a market that is growing in a given country, then you can use these to improve your operations in that country. Another proactive motive, you know that you can achieve a lot of economies of scale. You can reduce your average cost of production if you have more units sold, and then you look for another country, for new countries to reach a greater level of economies of scale, and then you can reduce the cost for developing new products, for marketing, and so on, because basically you're going to sell more products to invest basically not that high amount of money to enter in these new markets, for instance. And also some tax benefits. So some companies you move to a country because they receive some tax benefits to operate there. And the reactive motives. For instance, you find a lot of competitive pressures in the internal market, and then you try to find a new market where you can keep a good market share. Uh, when you reach a saturated market, for instance, you came from a very small country and now you don't have, it's not possible to keep growing in this market because you reach the level of saturation. So basically you're looking for a new market because you don't have enough market in your home country. Suppose that you're producing too much or you're not using properly your installed capacity in the factories. Then you move to new countries to try to sell this excess of capacity. For instance, you can receive one order came from international markets, so someone ordering your product and then you start selling, but it's not something proactive. It's just something that just happened to you. You can go to abroad also to sell some seasonal products in specific markets, and all the factors that you basically go to the markets because you have some similarity in terms of distance or psychological measures in terms of your customers. Basically, you're very close to a market, and this market it's very similar to yours, to your market, and then you enter there just because it's easy to do so. And in general, understanding these motives is very important to understand how you're going to develop your strategy, how aggressive or how the level of caution that you're going to have if you're going to accept risk. Usually, more proactive motives will be people will invest more money, they are going to accept more risk, and reactive motives will be more driven by more conservative moves, like small moves, small investments, and usually looking the short run. And proactive motives are more long run and more prone to accept risk. Of course, you need a trigger to start this process of internationalization. And you can have internal triggers and external triggers. It can start internally as a manager saying, okay, let's go abroad. Or you can have a specific event, for instance, a new market is now growing, or you receive an order from a foreign market. Or even you need to start importing, and this is a first step. For instance, you need parts from a foreign market because the internal demand cannot supply what you need, and then you start importing, and this is the first step for having foreign relations. And also you can have external triggers like market demand. You can have a network of partners. For instance, your suppliers or your customers are moving abroad. You can see that your competitors are moving abroad, and then you go to compete with them in new markets. You can go to a fair or have a contact from trade associations, and then can show you the opportunity to sell your product abroad. And sometimes you can have a special financing line, funding or financing line for moving your operation abroad, and this can be a trigger to operate. So be aware, especially about the internal triggers, and see the opportunities, and be aware also of factors that can happen externally to the firm that can start to move you to operate abroad. Especially take a deep look in the external triggers that can make your company to start these international operations. So export ad agents can be very useful for that. So these export trading companies, and they have some experience in dealing with international markets, and then you can go to them to see what kind of opportunities do you have for your business. You can go to the chambers of commerce, and then we're going to have exchange from home country and host country, and then you can go there to have some incentives and to see what are the opportunities that you have to have business abroad. Also, look to special programs from governments. So many governments will try to simulate the international operations, and they can give you additional assistance or even financial support and information. And also banks and other financial institutions. They usually can help their domestic clients to capitalize opportunities abroad. So go to the bank and see where they have operations in foreign countries and which kind of financing or help they can give you to start having your operations in this new host country. During this process of internationalization, companies will pass through different stages until they reach a more international level of operations. A very famous model to understand how companies evolve is the model called the Uppsala model. It's a model developed in the Uppsala University, and they realized that usually companies will start in just one country and they just entering into a new market with some no regular exports, and after some period of time they will have more commitment in terms of their mode of operation and also the number of markets that are going to enter. So over the time they start having more commitment in terms of having some independent representatives in the foreign markets, and after that they start having their own foreign sales subsidiary. And after some period of time, they start having their own production facilities and also the sales subsidiary. And this movement will increase, all companies will start having more commitment and also entering into new and more distant markets. But this model is not enough to explain how every business, how our business operates abroad. Some business will start having many operations according to their network of relationships in with different business, with different governments in different countries in the world. And in that case is where you have these foreign operations driven by your relations, your network of relations, then this Uppsala model will not be applicable. In that case, it's very common for business that have this kind of network that move abroad, and then you have these international networks as a way to become an international company. And in this network model, basically the statements that once you have a more broad network of companies that came from different countries and where you have relations with and these are related not only to your suppliers but to your retailers and also to production facilities and also the agents that will sell the products, then this will create a huge international operation even if your company are not really having direct investments in different countries in the world. So this is a model very common nowadays. For instance, you have the headquarters in one country, but you have some specific facilities in different countries, and you have networks of relations in different countries. One country where you have a subsidiary that will produce your items, your services and products, and you have a sales subsidiaries in different countries in the world, but basically there you have a network of local relations with banks and customers, and in other countries you can have just an agent to represent you and sell your product there. And in this kind of model, basically you can, it's a model more faster and usually a more strong level of internationalization that you can achieve in the short and middle term basically by developing your networks. After having an understanding of the motives and the triggers that will drive your company abroad, then you need to look to the firm and try to understand how competitive can you be to enter into a given market. And when you do so, you need to make three levels of analysis. The first level of analysis is the analysis of competitiveness of the country that you're going to operate, and also from the analysis of competitiveness of your home country. Then you're going to look to the industry, to the sector, and then you can use the five forces model from Porter to make the analysis of the industry in the country that you're going to enter. And finally, you're going to look to the capabilities of the firm. And then you can use the value analysis and the value chain for Porter, and also the resource-based view as a source for doing that. In the country competitiveness level, you can look and use the Porter Diamond analysis. And this model basically states that the level of competitiveness that you can achieve given the country that you belong is based on these four main structures and the relation with the government and also factors related to chance. So the first one are related to demand conditions, and also you need to look to factor conditions. Then you look to the firm strategy, structure, and the rivalry. And finally, the existence of related and supporting industries. All these factors will be will be affected directly by the government that you have. So the governments can increase the demand, can create better conditions for a business, can determine the way that we're going to operate a given sector, and also what will be the nature of the supporting industries. And of course, you have some chance, meaning that the competitiveness that you're going to achieve depend also if you're a lucky business when you're making your strategy. In this model of Porter's, the basic characteristics of your home country will be very important to explain how you're going to be competitive when you move abroad. And then you need to look to the home country and also to the host country that you're planning to operate. And the first factors that you need to analyze is the firm strategy, structure, and rivalry. So if you have a lot of home country competitiveness compared to the host country, then probably you're going to have some competitive advantages when you move to international markets. And also, what's the nature of the related and supporting industries? If you have national huge supply chain technologies and industry to push your competitiveness, then you can be very competitive when you move abroad. And also look to the relating and supporting industries in the host countries that you're planning to operate. And then you look to the country conditions that can affect the way that you're going to be competitive in that country. And one important factor that you need to look is how these factors are, you have mobility on these factors. So if you can move these factors from one country to another, then you're going to have more stability in the long run. Since if you have some crisis in a country, you can use the resources to invest in a new country. So what are the factor conditions? This is basically factors of the country, like the climate, the fiscal infrastructure that you have, natural resources, educational system, human resources, technological infrastructure, and capital. So each of these factors can be very important to determine if you can have competitiveness when you enter into a new market. But also, and of course, looking also to the home country and the host country. For instance, if you're in a country with a high level of education, it could be very easy to find very educated and high-skilled professionals. But once you move to a new country where the educational system is not that good, then you can have more difficulties. And try to find out what are the kind of difficulties that you can find because of these differences in terms of factor conditions when you compare home country and host country. And also look to demand conditions. So these are basically related to the demands and how you can create your infrastructure there. So what's the nature of the home demand and the host demand, the size of home demand and host demand, economies of scale that you can achieve when you move to that country, And also, what will be the transportation costs to operate and distribute your product in home country and in the host country. And also look to the buyer sophistication. If you need to develop a more high valued value proposition, or if you just can enter with the product without any adaptations on your strategy. In the Porter Diamonds also tells you to analyze the exogenous variables. And these are the variables that are not directly related to demand or the factors that will make a direct effect on your strategy and the structure of the given sector. So of course, government will have a very powerful role in making your increasing your competitiveness, so they can create barriers, they can create difficulties, they can create bureaucracy, and in the other side they can create incentives, they can create something that can help you. So look to the government, the level of taxes, what are the level of bureaucracy, and see how they can help you from home country to host country. And also, you need to look to the chance. And we have two main factors that we need to analyze when you look to this chance factor. First of all, the liability of foreigners. What is that? Basically, it's the idea that when you move from one country to another country, from home country to host country, you have some disadvantage compared to local firms. So you don't know the market, you don't know the networks, you have some difficulties to deal with bureaucracy, and all of these will create some slack, something that you need to carry, and it's not so easy to overcome these barriers, and because of that, usually foreign firms will enter into the market with some liability of foreigners, so some disadvantage compared to local firms. And also you have the other factor of chance that is usually considered, that is that the pioneer advantage. And what is that? Usually the first competitor to enter into the market will have an advantage because they are the first one to reach the more valuable resources. They are the first one to reach the customers. They can create better brand equity, a better relationship with the market. So if you are entering to the market and you are you're not so, and you have some disadvantage in terms of if you're not the first one to enter into a given country, then you need to look what are the competitors that are operating in the country, they are operating there since which year, and how these factors can affect the way that you develop your strategy, because you have the liability of foreigners and also the pioneer advantage, or the disadvantage of not being the pioneer. Also have the analysis of the competitiveness level in the country. Then you need to look to the sector. So what is the structure of the sector that you're going to operate? First of all, look to, and you can use the 5 forces model of Porter for doing that. And I'm not going to explain details of the conditions of the 5 forces, but I'm going to give you a general overview of this model. Basically, this model tells that the degree of pressure that you're going to suffer in a sector will be a result of 5 factors. The first one are the market level conditions, basically the market competitors that can create a lot of intensity in terms of rivalry, and also the pressure from buyers. So the buyers can create conditions that can create a threat for your business. And also you need to look to other levels in the industry, other factors in the industry level. So the suppliers, they can create difficulties for a business, for in a given sector, and also new entrants with new technologies, new entrants in the market, so they can able to compete with you in that market, and also new technologies like the substitute products that can enter into your market and compete for your customers. So you need to look and use this model of Porter to understand what will be the level of pressure that you're going to have when you enter in this sector in a given country in the world. Once you have the analysis of the sector, Then you can look to the internal resources of the firm. In that case, you can use the value chain analysis and the internal analysis of the firm. First of all, look to the resources that you have and which resources you can achieve and which resources are required to develop your business in a given country. And look not only for the tangible assets like capital and financial assets, but also to more intangible inputs like human and organizational capital or the brand equity that you can achieve in a given country. These resources will be transformed by some activities and process in some outputs. And these are the capabilities that you need, like marketing capabilities, logistics capabilities, and also some support or secondary capabilities, like for instance, the legal support for your business. So you have someone to take care about bureaucracy and laws, and usually this is not directly related to your value proposition, but you need that to keep your business running. So what are the activities and processes that you need to develop in each region in the world? This is something very interesting. Sometimes when you think about international marketing, some resources can be in home country and some resources will be in the host country, and some capabilities will be developed in home country and others in host country. For instance, you can have marketing and design made in new technology and innovation made in a developed country, and then you can have the production in the underdeveloped country or a country under development, and you can use that to have higher to have more economies of scale, and also because the cost to install operations there is basically smaller. And then you have the sales capabilities and resources scratched all over the world in different regions in the world. So you can have the marketing and technology in one country or some few countries, production concentrated in some big countries like Brazil, Indonesia, usually under the countries under development. And then you can have sales worldwide. And then you have different resources, different capabilities in different regions in the world. Of course, you need to find out which of these capabilities are more important for leading you to reach a sustainable competitive advantage. So basically, what are the capabilities that lead you to be competitive worldwide? This is what you call a competitive advantage. And to have core competence, some capability that will sustain your competitive advantage, you need to reach four conditions. You need to have something that is valuable, so you need to, this capability need to deliver something that the market wants or something that will create a greater value for your strategy. You need to have something rare or unique, something that other competitors will not have. And also you need to have something that is hard to imitate. If you have some capability and the competitors can create something equal in a short period of time, then this cannot sustain your competitive advantage. And finally, you need to be fitted to use this capability and maintain this structure in your business. And with these four conditions, we have the real model. So the model of value, rarity, hard to imitate, and also the organization, meaning that you're ready to use this competitive advantage in order to achieve better results. If you think about a company like Apple, for instance, they have some capabilities and resources in the United States and some countries in Europe, for instance, and they developed a product there, technologies, and then they have some suppliers that will make some activities of their value chains in developing countries, in China, in Bangladesh, Indonesia, and so on. And they have sales representatives to sell the products worldwide. And of course, what are of these capabilities will give to this company some competitive advantage? What will be the core competencies? Probably their marketing and their technology, but probably more the marketing that they have, the brand equity. So the way that they manage the brands, the way that they manage the relationship with the market It's something very valuable for the market. It's rare because the value of the brand is it's a very valuable brand. It's not so easy to create a strong brand like that. And until now, basically, Apple is applying this competitive advantage and use it in a proper way to sustain their competitive advantage. And that's it, students. With that, we finish the content of the lecture number 10, and see you in the next videos. Bye.